So, Sonic Prime Season 2 dropped, and, yeah, it's pretty alright. More of the same, really. Nothing much to say, but I will say the further the show goes, the further it just proves to me that it isn't canon in the slightest to the main Sonic-verse, as much as the social media team says it is. So I'm obviously going to go into spoilers, but it really is just more of the same. Nothing really new gets introduced. The Chaos Council is still the Chaos Council. Shadow sticks around in the back outside of the first and last episodes of the season. All of the Shadowverse cast of characters do stuff, but it really is just more of the same. Robot Amy goes through a character arc with Pirate Amy, which was pretty fun to see them do stuff together. To quickly recap the season, because, I mean, you can just go watch it yourself. The Pirate Bay is right there. I don't condone piracy. Shadow is pissed off that Sonic fucked up the world. Sonic is like, oopsie, my blue ass is just too quirky. Haha, I'll fix it. And then speeds off into the other Shatter spaces, and it's just kind of more of the same. First, Jungle Hill is attacked, the Jungle Crystal is stolen by the Chaos Council. Sonic attempts to steal the Sea Crystal, but again, stolen. The Chaos Council then attempts back in New York City to start fucking with the Shadowverse and take over the 4 other worlds. Sonic, the New York Resistance, the newly formed Blackthorn Pirates, and 9 team up to try and stop the Chaos Council from destroying reality. They steal back the 3 Shatter Crystals and then return to the aptly named Ghost Hill, which is like the prime green hill with one of the Shatter Crystals still in place from the original impact. 9 tries to put together the Paradox Prison, and during all of this, the Chaos Council tries to stop the heroes from fixing everything and summon probably what is now my favorite big boss, a giant Paradox Eggman with a neon pink mustache. It is literally just modern Eggman, and he's absolutely wrecking shit. Sonic gains a new form, power-up from the Paradox Energy, and 9 powering up his gear mid-fight. His spikes don't change, but basically he goes full Vaporwave, and I like that aesthetic, so that was pretty fucking cool. 9, however, tells Sonic to fuck off after he beats the Vaporwave man, because he doesn't want to fix the Shadowverse anymore, because he doesn't actually want to be Tails again. Or something. It's kind of weird. I think the implication they're going for is just straight up, 9 wants to continue existing as himself, not as some different variant of himself. But it can also be seen that if Sonic fixes the Shadowverse, ultimately it would just lead him back to where he was. Anyway, 9 takes the 4 Shadow Crystals to his little Shadow World of Depression, where the 5th crystal hides. Sonic is dumbfounded by this totally unexpected betrayal, and that's where the season ends. And, that's it. It's a nice action-packed season, but I really wasn't expecting this much of a cliffhanger for a 3rd season. Hell, I thought this would be it, but with another 8 episodes, it'll be a nice round series of 24 episodes, which isn't too bad in the slightest. But I want to get into the nitty-gritty of it for a bit. You know, I gotta spread out this runtime. I already uploaded a 4-minute video. I love doing this. Chaos Sonic, the show's Metal Sonic, despite the very ham-fisted dialogue, is probably my favorite incarnation of Metal Sonic in any modern setting, unless you count Metal and Heroes as modern. I couldn't really care less about Metal Sonic in the games. He's a robot duplicate that doesn't talk, shows up to race, loses, and then goes and then runs off for 5 years. But Chaos Sonic actually feels a bit more like a decent Sonic robot duplicate. He's very in your face, snarky, and constant jokes that even make Sonic question his entire shtick is, I feel, what Metal Sonic should be. Less angry red eyes and robot duding, more annoying duplicate. Like this version of Metal Sonic, I can actually see Sonic being like, hey, I'm gonna keep giving you chances to do the right thing, like he does in the IDW comics, which, by the way, are canon to the games. For the really 1 episode that he's around, he's fun. He's also got a pretty damn cool design. I much prefer the emotive LED face over just regular Metal Sonic. I should point out, he technically isn't Metal Sonic, and I'll get to that in a bit. Though, if I had to make one change to his design, like instead of the emoticon eyes that he has, which, I mean, are fun, I would probably make it like a holographic Sonic face. Like a really, like, pissed off, like, kind of, you know, see-through Sonic face. I think that'd be fun. Shadow is here. Shadow does Shadow stuff. He grunts, he frowns, and he just kind of hangs around and pretends like he's relevant. He does get one cool fight alongside Sonic against the Chaos Council, which is pretty fun for a final fight. What annoys me most, though, is that Homie accidentally drops a Chaos Emerald in the so-called Shatter Void, and just goes, well, that's gone now. Like, excuse you? You literally just dropped one of the biggest sources of energy and Deus Ex Machina. This franchise's break in case of emergency glass box, and didn't even bother going after it. Like, oops, that's gone now. I guess no Super Friday of the Hedgehogs to help fix his entire thing, which, by the way, throughout a lot of this, I feel like if they just went after the 7 Emeralds, this would all be over that much quicker, but, I mean, there has to be a plot, you know? Now, you and I both know the final episodes will probably have Super Sonic, maybe Super Shadow, fixing everything at the 11th hour. Like, the Emerald isn't gone, but still, a little more of a, oh, fuck, from either Sonic or Shadow would have been nice. Speaking of, there's absolutely zero info about the Chaos Emeralds. No Master Emerald or any of the other 6. They've just seemingly disappeared, which is really fucking weird, considering them being potentially split into 5 would have some crazy repercussions for the world. Or worlds. The Shattercast is, well, it's just more of the same. They don't really spend much time on the Jungle Cast, with Pirate Knuckles Dread taking on the role of secondary antagonist on his hunt for one of the Shatter Crystals, disgustingly stolen from him by Sonic in his quest for Dread's Precious. The focus really goes to Rusty Rose and Black Rose, and their blossoming friendship in being the same person, except one wasn't turned into a robot and isn't an asshole. Big is there. He's a thing. He does stuff. I fucking hate Big. 9 being the tertiary antagonist, or I guess the upcoming secondary antagonist in Season 3, is something I enjoy, because it's always nice to see Sonic have his blind optimism come back to bite him, only to ultimately win out in the end, especially with how 9 wanted Sonic to come with him to his own little so-called Grim, where we see him create a little palm tree beach setting for Sonic. It's actually kind of refreshing to see a villain version of Tails, especially when recent Tails turns his tails against Sonic were in some of the worst Sonic game stories out there. Sadly, all of my issues with Prime are still there. A very weird obsession with Green Hill as like the home of the characters, which objectively is wrong for literally all the cast. Even if you want to think of South Island as Sonic's home, which it isn't, Homie doesn't even have a home. But even if so, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, Rouge all would not even consider South Island as anything resembling a home. Tails quite literally has a house shaped like his damn head, a workshop on the mainland he clearly spends a lot of time in. Knuckles, well, I mean, Knuckles is Angel Island. I don't even know why he's on South Island. Shadow, we've never even seen him on South Island until Forces, which, by the way, might not even actually have been South Island and some virtual reality thing. I fucking hate Forces, you guys. The actual Shatterverses are just boring. I'm already not a big fan of multiverse stories, and this plot just barely uses it. I said in my original video that the Shadowverses were boring and uninspired, and they don't take the second season as a chance to expand on any of the previously established worlds, nor introduce any new ones. Nobody really grows. Once again, Rouge is just there. All of her variants are basically just there. The most action she gets is alongside Resistance Knuckles, who already gets more of a focus. No hints as to what really happened to, well, fucking anything. The Chaos Council goes unexplained, again, only showing they're all only out for themselves and why they split the city's dominion into 5. Why is Eggman split into 5 ages? Literally, what is the rest of the world doing while trying to deal with an authoritarian-run South Island? They imply it's only South Island, or, excuse me, Green Hill, that's taken over, so what's the deal? Still, no implications why there's no Shatterverse variants of Sonic. Like, there's posters in New York City that seemingly show Eggman smacking Sonic right across the jaw, but other than that, both he and Shadow are an anomaly. I just don't understand why you'd want to do a multiverse thing and not explore anything of it. Literally, most of the supporting cast doesn't actually do anything or get expanded on. There is nothing holding them back from having a massive 50-person Amy Rose variant pirate crew. I feel like with characters like Rouge, they were told to have her in there to have another female character alongside Amy, with Big and Froggy being added to the plot for funny memes. So what's holding them back? Why settle for the most generic platformer-inspired worlds? Like, oh, Water World. Ooh, Jungle. Final City World. Oh, like, I get that Into the Spider-Verse was an amazing movie, both visually and story-wise, and that Across the Spider-Verse was practically just as good, and they really wanted to tap into that back in 2020, but this is not the way to do it for Sonic. This is barely even scratching that itch. Like, compare the Into the Spider-Verse crew outside of Miles, Peter, and Gwen. There were 3 wildly different variants that all had their own proper unique art styles and gimmick. Here, we don't even have real multiversal shenanigans. It's just timeline bullshit. Like, what if the Sonic cast was cavemen? What if the Sonic cast was oppressed? What if the Sonic cast lived in pirate times? The multiverse aspect is so underutilized, and I'm genuinely curious if this is once again Sega mandates, Netflix mandates, the writers, or all of the above unwilling to actually do something cool with the concept. Fuck, why aren't Blaze and Marine in this story? They're already canonical universal equivalents to Sonic and Tails, akin to how Gwen and Miles are the Spider-Man and Woman in their universes. Why settle for lame-ass typical what-ifs if you can explore new animals and what makes Sonic Sonic? Have them all butt heads, but ultimately combine their efforts and join in with their unwavering optimism. I also quickly wanted to add, while I'm editing this, another idea could have been taking all of Sonic's friends, you know, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, Shadow, and then putting them in the position of Sonic in their own universe. Like, you know, keep the Shadow Prism stuff, but the idea then is, what if Sonic was never around and they took up the role of Sonic, you know? That, if you don't want to introduce a bunch of new characters. It really does just feel like Sega went like, hey, this Into the Spider-Verse movie is really popular. We have a cartoon Hedgehog, why don't we do that? And nobody involved with this process ever decided to look into what actually made that movie work. And mind you, Marvel's MCU has failed at this so far, and their entire multiverse arc is really fucking boring. Ultimately, though, it is more of the same. If you like Sonic Prime Season 1, you'll like Sonic Prime Season 2. I wouldn't say I prefer one over the other. I'm still gonna pull back on just really giving my opinion, because it's still not finished. So, you know, I'll come back to that when the third season drops in like 7 months or something. I do, however, want to take a small detour, because I mentioned it earlier in the video, and call it Sega's bullshit on its statement that Prime is canon to the Sonic games, which it isn't. It really isn't. Despite the GOAT himself, Ian Flynn, teasing that there is a timeline placement for Prime, I'm gonna be honest, there is literally zero way for this to make sense in anything modern. Orbot and Cubot are there for a scene before being absolutely removed, and thank God for that, I fucking hate them. But Sonic and everybody act like, honestly, I'd argue pre-Sonic Adventure. Like, for a hero that at this point has trusted his friends for adventure after adventure after adventure, why is he acting like this is the first time he's working together with them as a team? I would have made an argument that this takes place between Shadow and Sonic 06, because clearly Shadow isn't interested in his memories in this series, but I couldn't put it before anything post-Sonic Unleashed, where Sonic is already much more toned down. A quick rundown of hardcore contradictions to the game. Green Hill is not Sonic's home, nor is it Amy, Tails, Knuckles, Rouge, Shadow, or Biggs. Big lives on the main continent in the Mystic Ruins, somewhere in the United Federation. Knuckles' home is Angel Island, that floats across the world. Tails' house is in a place called Emerald Beach, which might either be the main continent, because Capital City is featured in Shadow the Hedgehog, and, well, we saw humans in there. Amy's last living space was in Station Square, or Capital City, in Sonic Battle. Sonic says that he's surprised that Flickies aren't powering the new Batniks, which is bullshit if you've played Sonic CD, Sonic Heroes, or quite literally any mainline game using egg pawns after Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic says the tornado is Tails' plane. It's not. Some minor, admittedly cute flashbacks using modern designs and minor changes to backdrops and events, but honestly, I'll happily chalk that up to just wanting to keep new fans not confused why characters are suddenly fat and have brown eyes. Season 2 adds to this with Sonic just fully not saying anything about Metal Sonic. He just sees Chaos Sonic, and for a show that quite literally is built upon, wait, this is this thing from my world, but different? Like, I'm sorry, Homeboy wouldn't just call out this clearly superior Metal Sonic complete with funny quips. I'm willing to let stuff like the tornado and the flashbacks slide because ultimately it's not a show about the games. But if you're writing for a series with such a big backlog of stories, you can do the minimum amount of research, or contact people who clearly know more than you do. I will admit that this has been in production since 2020, which is a few years before the active effort to actually solidify Sonic lore more across the board, before the lore team was actually established. This is just the final splatters of a pre-One World, pre-One Timeline storyline. Minor things that ultimately don't matter and can be hand-waved or retconned. I respect the effort to have multimedia content be canon and consistent with the games, but just hand-waving obvious mistakes with like, ha, he forgot, is just, that's not a good excuse. I think Sonic Prime, unless it pulls a massive flip in its last 8 episodes, should not and cannot be part of the main Sonic canon and shouldn't be considered as such. But you tell me, viewer, Do you really think a Sonic post real superpower of teamwork and post chasing Eggman into a trap leading to the world being split would really act like a young teenager who has never even heard of the word team? Anyway, what do you think of the second season? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Tell me in the comments below. I promise, I'll be back with a non-Sonic video next month. Maybe. God, I hope. I'm so sick of this blue